Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACIR Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guests, hosts, or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello, is anybody there? I thought Theresa was going to do the introduction. Aloha and welcome. I call this Secret Space program. UFO Secret Space, that's the name of our show. And we meet Fridays, and I'm JKLessin. And I think Theresa J. Morris is here, and Susan, what's her name? Johnson. Susan Johnson. Drawing a blank because I wasn't expecting to speak. Is anybody there? Aloha. Susan, are you there? Since I'm not running the board, I don't know what's going on. So, I'm going to... I'm not muted. I'm muted. Okay. I'm going to hang up and call back in case I did something wrong. Aloha. Hello? Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hello, world. Hope everything's okay with you. Hope you can hear me. Got a little feedback here. So let me turn that down, and we'll see if our guest is coming back on. I don't see my guest today, but we're doing ET Alien Incarnate Hybrid Forum Conversations today with Susan Johnson will be our guest. I don't see her yet, so Susan, if you can hear, the call-in is 347-945-7207. And Susan Johnson has the likes of David Jacobs, David Icke, Jonathan Wells, three men who have been following and sharing documentaries and investigative work in a field that she likes, ufology and alienology. And Susan is an alienologist and an ontologist. And she wants to begin a weekly radio platform. And JKLessin and I have been doing shows 8 years, and Janet's had her on a few shows. So I was asking Janet if she could come on and tell us a little bit about Susan and offer some support. So let me get JKLessin of Hawaii on. I don't see Susan yet. JKLessin, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I had called earlier, and I was just talking to the air. I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, so I hung up. I don't know if any of that got recorded. I don't think so. But anyway, I had a show yesterday, and Blog Talk was full of glitches, so hopefully we can get through an episode today. I'm not sure where Susan is. I can try to call her or text her and see what's going on. We just talked to her 30 minutes ago. I can't do both things. Why don't you tell everybody about yourself? And I really I can't call, and I can't do two things. So I wish I could do more. Wish I could do both things, but I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to look her up and text her.
You put some good stuff before on her.
Well, I'm just JKLessin. I've been doing these shows since 2012, but I've been working in media since I was a kid. I've been on a lot of television shows, radio shows. Main subjects are right now extraterrestrials, ufology, alienology, disclosure, contact. But I've been involved in relationship counseling and put on workshops and conferences and tantra. And hey, there she is. Is that Susan?
Yep.
Okay, Susan. Welcome to, I call it UFO Secret Space. That's my Friday show. I don't know what Theresa's calling our show, but we're doing a group broadcast, recording it on Blog Talk Radio, and you're Susan Johnson. So rather than us reading your bio, which is kind of boring, we're going to start with you telling us your story. And then when you go for about 5 minutes, if you kind of self-monitor, then you can ask us if we have feedback or additional questions. And we're going to do this dialogue for about 2 hours. Maybe we'll take a break at the top of the hour, but we're going to go for like 2 hours. And if you're getting long-winded, we're going to go, thank you. And that's your cue, like, okay, time to voices here. Our listeners get bored if it's the same voice going for 2 hours. So with that, Susan Johnson, take it away and tell us from the beginning. Go back in your time machine to your earliest memory when you came into this physical form as Susan Johnson. Where did you land? Did you remember anything before you came in? And what was the earliest memory you have about life on planet Earth as Susan Johnson?
It started back when I was 7 years old. I had that recurring dream that we were flying the ship and we were going through the Earth solar system and we were bouncing off the gravitational fields of the planets as we were coming in. And we were in our third phase of reconversion, which in our language is called aura amplifices. And we were coming in toward the Earth, and when we went past the sun, and we were going at the speed of light because the sun looked like a solid ball of rock. That means if you're going at the same speed of something, it's standing still. That's how I knew we were going at the speed of light. And then when I came into the Earth's upper atmosphere, a black hole opened up to the right side of the ship, and everybody else was still asleep, and I was awake. As I woke up first because I'm a navigator, Masvari, they call it in our language, Svari, Asvari. And I woke up and I said, Ecna was my pilot next to me, and I said, Ecna, shift the mass away from to the black hole, not away from it. And he shifted the mass away from the black hole, and then that's when we got obliterated. Now Ecna and the rest of the crew were what they call human Nyendans. I was an Aquaruin Nyendan, which means I was an ovoid formoid, not a humanoid. Even though we look humanoid, that's why they call us formoids. We're really multidimensional beings like an ovoid. Argoid is the actual race that we're from the other universe. Well, anyway, I kept getting the same dream over and over again. And then I'd wake up cross-legged like an Indian looking at the closet in a full-blown sweat several times. So then I had to go into the library at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I started doing my research. I looked up every parapsychology book, dream interpretation, physics, relativity, everything, trying to explain what was happening to me. And I finally figured out that it was a past life memory, because they say if you get the same dream over 3 times in a row, it's probably a past life memory. And then from there, I started getting scenes where they would take me up into the ships and show me my true parents from my true Aquaruin parents. Now, at first I thought they looked human, but they don't. They look alien. I mean, like Yissaron. I sent you a picture of Yissaron, right?
I think so, yes.
They look like them, and I felt an instant paternal, a very strong instant maternal bond to them, and I started crying. I didn't want to go back down here. I said, no, those are my real parents. I belong with them. Don't do this. Don't bring me back down here. Those aren't my real parents down there. And then that happened several times. And then they showed me the cylinders where I was conceived. And they said, from now on out, we will always have an animated body in there. So the next time you get killed, you won't have to be born anywhere else again. You'll be reanimated in one of the clones from the cylinders. And there was a bluish liquid in the cylinders, like a Gillet liquid. And then a few times after that, they started teaching me up in the ships about flying, the different panels, the different symbols, the different physics and stuff. And the physics up there is different. Once you go past 3 dimensions, once you go past the speed of light, the physics changes. And it isn't quantum either. It's similar to quantum mechanics, but different. And the only reason I know all of this is because I studied physics, electronics, mechanical maintenance, and I have degrees in those. But as a child, I would study particle physics, relativity, special relativity, nuclear physics, radioactivity, and my spare time. Everybody else was playing around and going out to parties and stuff. I would be in my room reading physics articles. And I've had ongoing experiences with them coming in my room, and then I'd go up when I'm asleep, and I dream I'm up in the ships, and I'm doing scout missions, and we even go to other planets. We did rescue missions and everything, so it's ongoing. Okay.
Okay. Are you complete with what you just said? So you're on these missions; they're ongoing. Theresa J. Morris, do you have any questions or feedback for Susan Johnson about what we covered so far?
How do we explain to people what level of existence that is, and when we're all human on the planet and we're speaking in radio waves, which we could be anywhere? So Susan, I keep calling you Suzanne, that's another friend of mine, but Susan, you know, we're setting up this across from the David Icke, Jonathan Wells likes of three men following this type of work, and you're an ontologist and an alienologist, ufologist. You've got extreme analysts. How would we compare your story to theirs? Because this platform you wanted to do today was so you could establish your own platform for you and your own people. So can you help me out here? Because we're three women versus three men. So help me out here, Suzanne. What kind of platform are you creating?
Okay, the platform I specifically want to create is specific targeted, a specific audience. I want to create a platform for alien ET incarnates, alien ET hybrids, not human ET hybrid. Okay, there's ET humans and ET alien. The ET human is like the Anunnaki, the Syrians, the Andromedans, some of the races from Arcturus, although most of them are formoids, not humanoid. Pleiadian, the common characters. The one I want to create is not the ET human ones that I just mentioned, but ET alien, which is like from Cygnus, Zeta, Taurus, other universes like Aldractity universe, Aliacron universe, Arfactinum universe, and any other kind of triune universe that's adjoining this universe through and on the boundary conditions. And I want to set up a platform for ET alien incarnates, ET alien hybrids, not ET human hybrids, if you know what I mean, and not the starseeds, because a lot of them are ET human incarnates into a regular human body. I specifically want to target those lesser known races that have not had any kind of a platform or a voice and are not being properly represented. And I want to present it as the work that we're doing, like stabilizing the sun, stopping the sun, the CMEs from hitting the Earth, and stabilizing the central planetary energy vortex of the Earth, dimensional shifting, a lot of the dimensional and energy work that we're doing. And I want present us in the true light instead of all the vilification and demonization that the other three people they paint with a wide brush. They represent us as being in the same group with the negative reptilians and the negative grays. And believe me when I say that the negative ET tall whites are in control of everything. They control the world governments. They control the evil elite. They shower them with gifts. They allow them access to their secret space fleet. And all this they're demonizing and vilifying us through the mainstream media and all these other UFO experts and stuff because they don't want us here because we're an obstacle. We're intervening and we're making everything right, which they do not want. They want control over total reality. And if they can control the Earth, they can control the whole matrix that controls the very nature of physical reality. And we're in their way because we want to make it go to its next ascension phase, and they don't want that. The other thing, we're also a threat.
Oh, could you read? I think that's your end. Those little beeps.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
Okay, so the main thing is most people who are in this field are humans experiencing this. I'm alien experiencing this. And how many aliens experiencing this are being heard, are being listened to? And they have a lot more detailed information, more accurate information than the human experiencing this, because the human has filters, emotional screens, religious upbringing, and brainwashing that distorts the perception of what's being presented to them by the ET aliens. And then they demonize and vilify us because they don't understand our nature. They don't understand the true nature of the universe. And they don't understand the true nature of being an identity. And this is why they vilify us, and then it causes hysteria and paranoia on the general population. And the general population are going to attack us. They're going to ostracize us. They're going to block us from gainful employment because we're a threat to, because basically the bottom line, we're a threat to the grip hold that the evil global elite has over the human population. Because if the humans start experiencing other types of beings and their true natures and everything, they're going to see us for what we truly really are, which is highly evolved, benevolent type beings. And once they see that and they start to understand us, and in so doing, they start to understand themselves, because the contrast creates understanding and insight. And they don't want that, because that'll liberate the mind from being controlled by the negative ET scourge and the evil elite. And so they're always fighting us, shooting at us up there with the secret space fleet, and they're always attacking us. They're blocking us from getting any kind of gainful employment down here on the planet's surface. And the demonization is pathetic. And the three men that you referred to, I don't really want to say their names. They're vicious.
Okay. Janet, you understand that we can universally say the benevolent may or may not be above those in this galaxy. So maybe we need to establish some perimeters, dimensions, overlays, realms. Janet, do you have any input from your many years of interviews of how to do this?
I'm just formulating how to do this. I think how to do this is how we're doing it. We're just starting with step one. And step one is getting down to stories and documenting, this phenomenon of extraterrestrial intelligence walking among as human beings. Many people are born into the human form, but we really identify with our originations from other, planets and universes and dimensions and those type of things. This is a phenomenon I encounter a lot. Now, your specific people that you're identifying with, Susan, you seem to be like another group that has started to come to the earth. Up until this point, there's been waves. So I guess the first wave was probably in the 50s. I guess that was the Venusians and Valiant Thor, and the ships were coming down at Big Rock in California, and people were gathering. I heard that they had 20,000 people at those gatherings out in California, and then the ships would come down, and people of those times some of them would go and walk out and go right into the ship. So we have different generations with the Betty and Barney Hill phenomenon in the early 60s and so on and so forth. Whitley Strieber, wrote his book about Communion. I think that was in 1993. Or was that earlier? No, it was 1980-something, 86, 87. Yeah, I was in my second marriage at the time. So anyway, just begin. We don't have all the answers, but we don't need all the answers. We just do step one, and step one is this show with Susan. So, Susan, continue. What else would you like to tell our listeners about your early years, your beginnings, your memories, how you are dealing with this, how you're coping with this? And then in about another 5-10 minutes, stop and ask us to interject again. Back to you, Susan.
Okay, and in my earlier years, but actually before I had that recall dream about flying into the black hole, I had I was around 5 years old, and at that time, my two brothers in the front bedroom, they had because we were all little kids then, they had those plastic monster kits where you make plastic monsters, a mold and everything. and you play with those, and they'd have little toy airplanes and stuff, the usual stuff the kids play with in the front, as little kids. And I was by myself because no one had anything to do with me because the kids in the neighborhood were either much older or much younger. And I had an eye that turned in, and I had to wear an eye patch because I was born with amblyopia. Nobody wanted to be seen with the freak, even though I didn't think of myself as a freak. I was always told that I was very beautiful because I have long copper red hair, and I have brown eyes and an orangish type skin. I don't have the usual ruddy redhead complexion per se, real milky white skin with freckles all over. I had more of an orangish reddish type tan to my skin. Well, anyway, I would play by myself. But around 5 years old, I had this dream. I don't know if it's a dream or a scene. I was in my room in front of my dresser, and these beings showed up, and I thought that they were kids that wanted to play with me because they were about my height, like 4 foot or 4.5 feet or something, and they started actually shooting lasers at me, and then all of a sudden I started like I wanted to beat them up, and the energy would surge from my hands and go after them and shoot them, and it would burn them, and they'd get mad, and then all of a sudden one of my people showed up behind me, which was like 6 foot or like 5'5" or 5'8", and they shot a laser at him and vaporized one of them, and the other 3 got scared, and they went poof right through the wall and disappeared. And I had this happen like 2 or 3 different times, and I was startled. I wasn't scared or terrified or anything. I was startled, and I thought, what the hell? What are they attacking me for? What did I do? And then the other ones would say, oh, because they're your enemy, and then they said you'll know better as you get older. We're warriors or something like that. We're here to fight them. And then a few other dreams I had, it was like later on, like I was 8, 9, or 10 years old, I was visited by Yissaron, Uberon, and Oberon, and Zyderon, and they were showing me the true nature of where I'm from, which was Aquaruin and Cygnus, and they showed me our true features, and they showed me what it would look like. Our Aquaruin glands and the bumpy little bumps on the side of our face, like in front of the ear, like along the ear, like on the side of the face, and they showed us what they were used for, ductless glands for secreting different pheromones and stuff. And they showed me their fingers. They showed me what we really look like, and I did feel a strong affinity toward them, like that's who we are, or that's what I am. And then it continued around 12, 13, and 14 years old. I started doing a lot of out-of-body experiences, and I thought it was out-of-body, but I would go to the south of France, and I would visit this place. It was like an encampment, like it looked like Mount Saint-Ségur, but it wasn't there. It was in La Javie and Digne-les-Bains in France. I found out those names later on by doing some research, but I found out there was a group there that looked humanoid, but they were from another planet, and I didn't know what their name was. I just knew that I was going there, and there was a guy there that I remember from my past life, and his name was Icke, and he had a green T-shirt on, dark blue jeans, short wavy black hair, brown eyes, white milky orangish skin, and he says, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. Get out of here. Why? How did you find me? Where did you know where I was?" I said, "I don't know how I found you, but here I am." And then and he didn't like me. I couldn't figure that one out. If he was one of us, why didn't he like me? So then this went on, and then finally, when I was 15 years old, I was asleep in my bed, and the front bedroom, they left the TV on, and I got mad, so I wanted to turn off the TV, and there was the documentary. It was called Overlords of the UFO, and they started describing this group called the UMO in the south of France, and they started explaining they come from Wolf 424 in the constellation of Virgo, and that they are the ones in the south of France. So and they said Antonio Ribera was the ufologist that discovered them. So then I started writing letters overseas a lot to Antonio Ribera, and I found out about Jean-Pierre Petit that used to do the astrophysics research in the Institute of Astrophysics in France. And then there was 2 other people I wrote to, Edina Labans and La Javie, in the south of France. And it's true, the UMO were there. Well, then they had since left. So then I forgot about that for a while, and I kept having ongoing experiences with my people, which are the Arcarons. And then I got introduced, and then I started being, by them, started being trained about central planetary energy masters. And the UMO, the Nyandans were still working with me at that time, and they taught me about like synthesizing the central planetary energy from long distances, like light years away, by focusing on them, and you can tell by the arousal factor and everything that you're locked in and all that. And then I started getting other experiences where they would train me on the ships. And I started getting validation. I would start writing to the Center of UFO Studies, ran by JKLessin, and some of the dreams I'd have or scenes where I'd be flying over the like Michigan or places like that. I would write down the dates and times, and it would correspond with certain dates and times of other sightings in those areas. And then not much information was given out back then, but then in my 20s, I started getting scenes where we were doing recon missions and stuff. And the central U.S., where you go underground, you'd see these underground facilities and colonies, alien colonies, human colonies, underground. And I started seeing other types of beings that I'm working with, palish, bluish beings like that look similar to the Greys, but their heads are much, much smaller, like almost the size of a normal human head. They're not exaggerated like the Biodroid Greys. And I knew that they existed, but I didn't say much about it in the 80s because nobody was going to believe me then. And then in the 90s, it started to trickle out some of the information, and then the New Age movement started. And all the different scout missions that we were doing in the 70s and the 80s, where we were awakening people to their true identity and reconnecting them to their true races, started to pay off, because then the New Age movement started in earnest, I think, around in the 90s. And I guess this is the byproduct of our work, because we awoken those people and reconnected them to their true races and stuff, and they started doing their work. And then anyway, the humor in the back of my mind, I never paid much attention anymore. But in 1994, I was working as a security guard at a high school, and I was still taking electronics at Miami-Dade. And I had finished the electronics degree, AA degree in electronics with the 2.65 GPA. Anyway, I was working as a security guard, and I was walking. It was my time off. I was walking on 106th Street, and I went to 97th Avenue. And on the way back, something told me to stop at 88th Court, so I did. And I stood there. I don't know why. And it was like September of '94, and I waited, and there it was. It was a black rectangular ship. And on the one lengthwise side, it had like a sawtooth pattern, drawn like a cream-colored sawtooth pattern on the one lengthwise side of the ship. And it flew, and it was only like 25 to 30 feet above me. It was no higher than the power lines. I kept looking at it, and I was squinting my eyes, trying to figure out what it was. Was there any ripples in it? Was it a kite? Was it some kind of a blimp? What was it? And I was trying to figure it out. And it was perfectly still over me. There was no ripples in it, nothing. And it was windy. It was perfectly still, solid black, right? So then I thought, what about, because at that time I was obsessed about the UMO, and I said, I formed a triangle with my 2 thumbs and my first 2 fingers over my nose, the bridge of my nose, and I kept trying to say, are you UMO? And as soon as I did that, the thing shot up to like 50 feet. And I thought, oh, my God, I was like shocked. I was like startled, like, whoa. I didn't know I had that much ability to focus and concentrate like that, because I used to do that all the time with Lyra and Cygnus and Taurus. I used to communicate with my fingers telepathically and try to get information back, feedback and everything. I found out that they're not humanoid, they're Aquaruin. That's another story in of itself. But anyway, the ship banked to the lengthwise, east and west, went to 97th Avenue, and slowly came back. The 3 bicyclists went by, 2 joggers went by, and I didn't draw their attention to it, but something told me it was meant for me, not for anyone else to see. And then it came back over my head again, and then it orientated itself north and south again, lengthwise, and then I looked at it a little more, and then it just went to the north, and it disappeared behind the trees, never to be seen again. Well, then about the next day, I had this so-called dream or scene or whatever, where I was on board their ship, and I was laying down, and they had this circular pattern thing over my head, and it made like it was green on the inside, and it had like little gray segments in it, and it was making like different concentric circular patterns, and it would shift, and there was like 3 or 4 green spheres on the outside of it, and the spheres would change position, and and every time the spheres would change their positions, there was like the pattern inside of the circular thing would change, and they had this real long Q-tip that went in the right side of my ear, and as they kept rotating it back and forth, this elongated thing went in the inside of my ear, and it didn't hurt. It tickled, but it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt or anything. I wasn't scared. I don't know why I trusted them, but I did. And then when they got done, that was it, and I woke up. Well, I have a ever so slightly raised circular area in the top right of my forehead with a little tiny pinhole in the middle of it, and I have a slight shadowing of a perfect isosceles triangle in the center of my head, like near my hairline. And I knew it was them. So then I had subsequent scenes with them after that where they showed me their ships, they showed me their technology, the flat screen panels that they use for imaging, with the quadruple coupled spherical devices, and then they showed me how to interface with those. Then they showed me the control panels on the ships, and there was 2 or 3 of them that took a personal interest in me, and the main one was Darlon, and he took me down to the generating area of the ship, which is below the main, cockpit area where they fly the ships and everything, and he walked me around, and he showed me these upside down teardrop shaped, where the wider part of the teardrop is on the bottom and the thinner part of the teardrop is touching the top of the ceiling of the room, and they were like a cream colored with a slight tinge of purplish and a slight tinge of bluish in it. And he said all you have to do to adjust them is you just touch it. And I touched it, and it would shift. What they are, they're gravitational transponders that convert electromagnetic and negative neutral quantum energy into gravitational fields. It's a field inversion sphere they use. And I went along and they touched it, and their name for it is called Trigits. They said we call these Trigits. And they showed me all of that, and then a few other times I was with the Aquaruins and the Nyandans and the Humites, because the Humites were working with us as well, and then also the Archerons, and we were up in the ships, and they were showing Aquaruin ship, and they were showing me the panels and the cylinders where they beam in and out of with the concentric grid plate on the bottom of the cylinder, and they showed me the sphere device that they use with a Saturn ring around it. I guess they call them an accretion ring or an accretion ring. And they have it like a control panel, a touch panel. You walk up to it and touch it, and you can interface your energy with the sphere. And they said, we do planetary synthesis as well as the Nyandans and the Humites. And they said, this is we want you to image this. And they showed that the central planetary energy pattern, the Earth on the centralized sphere. And then you reconfigure the domain, and then you send a streamer, one-dimensional silicon wave through that domain. It goes to the center of the Earth, and it corrects the instability of the central planetary energy vortex, is what they do. And they showed me this, and then they showed me other planets that they can tune into, and they can do the same thing. It doesn't matter how many light years you're away or anything, because they use what physicists today call entanglement. They used to call hyperuncoupling. And if you use silicon waves, light harmonic resonances, which is the baseline light harmonic resonance and everything. And if you read the books by B.L. Cathy, he talks about the harmonic of the universe, and there's different light harmonic resonances in each type of universe, and each universe has its own light harmonic resonance system. And so they taught me all of this, and they showed me how to do that, and then the Nyandans did. The Humanoid, I think, they were just there observing, more or less. They didn't really interact with us. And then this went on, and then I forgot about that because we were continuing with our other work, the scout missions, rescue missions of other colonies and other planets, where we literally walk them right off the planet up into the motherships and stuff. And then this is like in the late 90s. And then, weirdly enough, because I used to be a nuclear contractor, I was working as a generator jumper on the eddy current crew for Westinghouse, and we were working under the subcontractor spec group, and we were over there in the nuclear plant in the Midwest, and we were in the break room, and I know that the Nyandans had showed me Area 51. They showed me and the Arquequians, Area 51. They showed me the underground colonies. They showed me the different alien races there, and they showed me, that they were being exploited and mistreated by the human military personnel there, and they wanted to take them off world and stuff, and they were asking us for our help. And at that time, I didn't fully understand my complete role at that time. I just knew that I did a lot of rescue missions and stuff of different crew members of different alliances that we were working with. And at that time, we were doing a lot of technical work, and I couldn't figure out what was going on because why are they keep asking us for rescue missions? Why are we fighting these people in space? At the time, I didn't know that we were warriors, that we were light warriors called in from another universe to help out. I didn't know it at the time, so it was all confusing to me at that point why we were doing certain types of work. So then I just went along with it. And then, so anyway, I knew all of this stuff, and at the same time I was in the nuclear industry. Well, then finally I ended up in the Midwest at a nuclear plant outage, and the Westinghouse engineers were in the break room with me, and they asked me, so Susan, half jokingly, half serious, so what's the name of the blue aliens that run Area 51? I mean, just so totally out of nowhere, for no known rhyme or reason or nothing, this engineer walks up to me and asks me this question. And I never talked to anybody about that there when I was there. So none of the other coworkers knew about it. So how did he know? So I proudly, you know how a person stands up really proud and they thrust their chest out and their head back like they're really proud of what they know. And I said, the Arquequians. Within 2 hours later, I was escorted off the site and sent home.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to take a break. Good story, Jean.
Yes. All right. So now that's a. Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah. Richard Knight has joined us as well, Susan. So just so you know.
Oh, good. So I'll ask you questions. Okay. Wait, you gave me the talking stick, so let me. I'm going to lose what I was going to say. Oh shoot. Let me get what I was going to say.
Story.
Okay, so this guy, how did he know? Wait, don't you answer. No, don't you answer. This is for Susan. Okay, Susan. And you know the answer. You know in your higher self. How did this guy know?
It's very simple. Westinghouse was one of the main leaders of the reverse engineering of any craft that was crashed on this planet Earth. They take it back to the different various bases. I don't remember the bases' names now. I think it's Wright-Patterson and Nellis and all those other bases. And there's Aberdeen testing grounds. And I think the Ames Laboratories or something, and they do the reverse engineering. Well, obviously they have the aliens working with them elbow to elbow, teaching them what to do and everything. Well, Westinghouse was the ringleader They were the main ones doing the reverse engineering, as per Stanton Friedman, which I already suspected before he even came out and said it. And that's how he knew, because he must have been involved in the reverse engineering of the ships because he worked for Westinghouse, and they're very devious. I mean, that's it. That's how he knew. And that's why I got to sort of off-site, because they probably figured, how the hell does she know this? She's never worked in the government, never worked for CIA, never worked for anybody like that. Yeah, I was a nuclear contractor, but I was a civilian nuclear contractor, not military, not DOE, not DOD, nothing. So how did I know? He was probably figuring, how the shit does she know this? Well, obviously.
Right. Let me have a follow-up. I have a follow-up question for that. Okay, so it's possible, with what you just revealed, that Stanton Friedman, who was, admired by the UFO community all, 50, 60, whatever years he was doing this, he died in his 80s, that he might have been here to manage the narrative and what would get released to humanity. So he was here like the manager of the narrative to make sure that we didn't really find out absolutely what's going on. So, Mike, I want to go back to so this was a colleague, and say the question again he asked. What was the question he asked you?
So, Susan. So what is the name of the blue aliens that run Area 51?
There in the room when you responded, when he asked that.
There was one or two other Westinghouse engineers, and there was 3 or 4 of the in-house so-called permanent Westinghouse employees that go on their Westinghouse employee team that go around, and they run all the eddy current testing on all the steam generators. So there's like 4 permanent Westinghouse eddy current employees, and there was like 3 Westinghouse engineers, and there were some other, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people in there from the local utility, and that was it. Okay,
so you had a lot of witnesses. So you could have been, somebody's asking about the blue aliens. You could have been joking back and say, they're the blah, blah. And so they could have all just laughed. Ha, 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 right? So what was their response when you responded?
They didn't laugh. They didn't respond. They didn't do anything.
Okay.
They acted totally oblivious to it.
And then you found out how? Go over that again. You found out what, by called into the office, a memo? How did you find out the next day?
No. I was still in the break room 2 hours later, and one of the Westinghouse in-house personnel, I'm not going to say his name, he was sort of sympathetic toward me because he's had a lot of experiences too, but he's also had my labs, and he's also had interrogations and torture and everything. And this guy, he was a very religious Bible thumper freak, but he was sympathetic to me because he was open-minded to this stuff like I was, and he saw what happened, and he was shocked. And he came in later and said, because he was one of the ones that had to escort me off-site, and he asked me what happened, and I told him, and he said, "See, you knew." He said, "It wasn't anything you did wrong. It was they set you up or something." And I said, "What do you mean they set me up?" And so this goes back to an outage that I did in Vermont. There was a guy there, a site coordinator for a local health physics tech company, and he didn't like me at all. And his whole demeanor, I think he was an abuser, a woman abuser, his whole demeanor. And he couldn't stand me because and this is in Brattleboro, Vermont now. And he was a local, and he was also the coordinator for a health physics contractor company. And he didn't like me from day one. I rub a lot of people wrong. Well, anyway, I would be on the phone with my credit union because they got my balance messed up, and I was going to end up sleeping in the street if I didn't get it straightened out because I was renting a hotel room, as we all do when we're on the road. And they were about to kick me out if I couldn't make the payment, and the payment wasn't going through. Well, I was cussing and yelling and everything on the phone. And the break area, and he heard me and he got mad at me and he couldn't stand me. Well, as it is, I never stepped foot in that plant site. I never wore the badge. I never wore the TLD or anything like that. So technically speaking, if I was never issued a badge, I don't have to put that down as one of my jobs on my resume or on my security questionnaire. And that's what I was told by a Westinghouse security person who's in charge of all the security paperwork for all the nuclear contractors. He said, no, you don't have to put it down. If you never stepped foot on the plant and you never wore the badge or anything, you don't have to put down that job's description, because the guy was going to give me a bad reference if I did. So I figured, oh, good, I escaped the bullet. I escaped that one. Okay, so I get to work. Well, that was where they set me up, because that's what this one technician told me who was escorting me outside. He said, they set you up. They deliberately told you that so that you wouldn't put it down, so they could use that as an excuse to escort you off site because you knew too much about the other thing.
Okay, wow. Richard Knight is here. Do you have a question or feedback for Susan? Thanks for joining us.
Sure. Thanks. Hi, Susan. Wow.
Hi, Richard.
Absolutely fascinating, incredible on so many different levels, yet at the same time viable, accurate in regards to the various species and contacts of races that you've had. Only as far as goes the grays, the blues, and the greens, since I had contact with them when I was 5. But it is just fascinating that, you went into the situation as under the guise basically of a federal contractor under nuclear stations, and then you got involved with Westinghouse and all these other folks, and then in turn to have direct contact and be given so much information that was evidently and is evidently to, I'm sure, a large extent, extremely classified, because there's lots of people that don't want us to know what you're actually coming out with. And yet at the same time, you're not really bound by any Privacy Act or Secrecy Act, because you never signed any direct privilege with any of the agencies that you mentioned previously. So it's absolutely, you're absolutely delightful. Yeah, you're absolutely delightful. But at the same time, I'm wondering, why now? I mean, what has inspired you after all this time of going through all these various experiences and being exposed to all of these other persons who had like experiences as yourself? Why now? I mean, is there something, is some of your contacts, from the other races in other dimensions and so forth, inspiring you to make this contact now and come out with all this, or exactly what?
Yeah, it all happened unplanned, spontaneously. I didn't have any intention on doing this. This is something that all of a sudden it started presenting itself to me, and I thought, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be going public? What am I supposed to be doing? Do they want me to do this? I know that they told me in the past. There was another scene I forgot to tell you in 1983, during the Orange Bowl in Miami. They saw a big UFO, and I had an experience, a very intimate, telepathic experience with my twin soul soulmate who was flying that UFO, cylinder shaped. And they were don't tell anybody. And this is my own people. And I felt like, am I violent? Because they never did tell me, okay, now you can tell them. So I thought, well, no, they don't want me to tell them. Why am I doing this? Why all of a sudden all this radio work? And I telepathically asked them, they said, well, it's okay. That isn't going to have any relevance one way or another on our security or on our work or anything up there. You can do that or something. I guess now, because it's presenting itself, it was never really anything I anticipated. It just happened.
So I guess you would actually say that this is your higher self controlling your physical self to share all of this relevance of memory and all of these relevant experiences, because I believe wholeheartedly that by putting it out there now, you're calling forth a lot of individuals who have had like experiences and didn't know or had no one to turn to. So you're validating to a lot, who knows how many thousands, maybe even millions of people, that have been abducted at various points and times in their lives. and also, of course, affected telepathically or affected intuitively, affected physically, and in all kinds of different ways. And yet at the same time, you're kind of verifying that a lot are very positive, while at the same time acknowledging that there are those that obviously play with us like we're toys or something for their own amusement. It's just fascinating. I mean, wow. Thanks for sharing. I mean, it's just fantastic.
Well, I love the part that, yeah, a lot of information I have, according to the government, would be considered classified, but I never worked for the government.
Exactly. You're not bound by any Secrecy Act or any documents or pledge that you would have signed in that regard. So therefore, they can't really control you from any aspect, because I mean you're covered under the Constitution. You know, this is your First Amendment right, freedom of speech, and they have no right to control you because you never consented to any kind of agreement or control thereof.
Yeah, and that just it makes me really proud. Talk about a thorn, right?
Yeah.
Well, Susan, this is your platform. Where would you like to go from here? Because you're sharing documentary type of information, and I hope you know that the world is listening, and we don't know where all this is going, but we do know radio waves travel universally. So would you like to call down any other universal level of, you said ET, alien, incarnate, hybrid, and Susan Johnson is that. So I've got Susan Johnson of Earth As Is, and we're here to support you, Janet Lessin, Richard Knight, and Theresa Morris. So with the three of us here, where would you like to take this ET, alien, incarnate, hybrid platform? Any other people you want to talk about or invite in the future? How do you see this platform?
Yeah, take it away. Next segment, and then after about 10 minutes, once again, pause so we can give you feedback. Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Specifically, I want people that are like me to find each other, to be able to share their experiences with each other, and give each other moral support. It's been a lifelong quest of mine to find other people like me on this planet, and I've come to the conclusion there's nobody else on this planet for my group. It's just me. After all the searching, calling up all the UFO investigators, researchers, everybody like that, even psychics, I've come to the conclusion that I think I'm the only one here for my race, for my group.
Well, just because you haven't received the answer yet doesn't mean they're not out there. It's, it's a big planet, and not everybody listens to all these things. So we're getting it out there, and you very well might get some responses. I guess I should put it out there that if you want to talk to Susan, you can give whatever email or whatever you want to do, but you can contact me at Aquarian Radio. I'm Janet Lessin, aquarianradio@gmail.com, and I'll forward it on to Susan. But Susan, do you have any way that you want to be contacted? And realize there might, once you open up your email or your phone, you might get, so be careful what you give out, because you might get a lot of calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'd rather go
through Richard, I got a little feedback. Yeah.
Wait, let her finish. What did you say, Susan? Susan, what did you say? I didn't quite hear the end.
I'd rather go through the Aquarian Radio Network channel to filter out, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that do this to try to get attention and notoriety, which is not my intention.
Okay,
and you might
that's
get
a
a
good
lot
idea.
of moles. You might get a lot of moles, too, that are planted to go in and try to weed information out of me. I've had that happen before, and then I've had government, like Alberto Rosales, who writes the books on missing. He wanted some of my artwork. He wanted me to do some artwork for him, and I was willing. I was trying to become an artist. I'm trying to become commissioned as an artist to get my work out there so I can do artwork for a living. And I even did drawings for the South Florida Fern Society and stuff like that. And the one person who was in England, she recognized me as very accurate as an artist, because I depicted it was a maidenhair type fern, and she was very impressed and said that did a very accurate depiction of that fern and the detail and everything. And I was trying to get work as an artist on the side because I figured if I can't work in the nuclear industry anymore, I was going to try to work on the side and get extra money that way. And then this Alberto Rosales said that he wanted people to do artwork, and I answered, and I started talking to him a little bit because he asked me about my background, and then all of a sudden he just blew me off. He emailed me and said, "Don't ever call me, don't ever contact me, email me, text me, or any way, shape, or form. I don't want to hear from you anymore. The government is involved."
Okay, well, let's focus on positive aspect of this work. So we know there's going to be some, I don't know what's called, kooks and crazies out there, but I will do what I can to screen them. I always do that anyway. That's what I do. I get contacts all the time. So once again, it's aquarianradio@gmail.com. But realize I will be screening you, so please, no trolls. We don't want any trolls. Okay, so back to Richard. Would you like to ask Susan a question for this next segment where she's going to go into the information that we need to know? And we're at the top of the first hour. We're going to go 2 hours max, and then we're going to call it a day. We'll come back another time. So go ahead, Richard, ask Susan a question. Susan is the focus of today's show. Take it away, Richard. Oh, and somebody's got a lot of background noise, so please mute if you're not speaking. Thank you.
That's Richard. Richard, are you sitting in front of a computer or TV? He may not can help.
Hang on a second.
No, there's two other things I want to mention about the. There's two other things I want to mention about the Urquequians. For some reason, the strong impression I'm getting from the way people react to me when I start talking to them about them is that for some reason, I think they were working with the government at one time and they broke away. They disbanded the contract because of the fact that they were not honoring the contract. That's the right word, honoring. And so therefore they broke it off and they're freelance now. They do whatever they want to do. They don't answer to anybody. They are benevolent. They're working with 60 million humans is what I found out. They're from an area behind the star Antares, and they're also from a constellation called Hydra, which I found out. This is really weird how I found out. And apparently for some reason they're a sore spot with the government or something, because every time I start talking about them, the calls drop, something happens. It's weird, and it's like everybody's definitely afraid of them, and I don't understand why. Because when I am around them, I have a special affection toward them.
Wow, that's interesting.
And
maybe
they're not my real people.
But maybe they're someone that you and your people do some kind of trade with, or maybe your neighbors, or some kind of galactic arrangement. No,
we work with them. They're in our alliances. They're warriors, but they're also master energy creator beings, and they create different planetary systems.
Wow!
And they do work with us.
Okay.
Hey, Susan, can I get you to call in now? The last time you tried to call in, you couldn't get in. But 347-945-7207, write that down, because you're on my merged phone call. And I just had some people come in, and I can't mute myself because you're on my phone recording. So could you call into the studio?
I don't want to. What is the number? You said 07. I thought it was 7297.
No, 347-945-7207. That's for everybody listening, if you'd like to call in. But Susan Johnson is our special guest today, bringing us ET Alien Incarnate Hybrid. 347-945-7207. But if you could do that, Susan, then I can do a lot more with my board. But I apologize. Plus, when I turn on Richard, we were picking up some sound off of him too. So could you call in, and I'll let Janet and Richard talk for a minute.
347-945 or 947.
347-945-7207.
945-7207. All right, I'll try it again. And if I'm not able to get back, you know what happened.
You call me back on my phone. We'll just have to deal with my daughter being here. Okay.
All right.
It's the sound.
So Susan's taking a siesta for a minute to dial back in, and Janet's doing the same, correct?
I need just 5 minutes,
There's
and
Janet.
then I'll be back. I'll be back in
Okay.
5. Take it away, Richard.
Okay. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, this is Dr. Richard Knight. I'm a theologian. My encounters with extraterrestrials bear a small amount of experience, nothing anywhere near what Susan is sharing with us today. It's absolutely fascinating. And maybe perhaps she's sharing in order to put the call out so that you can reach others that are of her own species or of her own race, or if nothing else, at least bring forward those that are light workers and warriors just like herself that are here on the planet with a similar mission. Because now...
Okay, she's back now.
Yeah.
She's back now.
Susan, you there?
Susan, can you hear us?
Yeah. Thank you, Richard, for that dialogue. I appreciate that backup, that validation.
Well, it makes good sense, you know. I mean, you're coming forward now because you feel isolated and alone. And I think we've all gone through that process. You know, when you go through the ascension and the awakening process and you all of a sudden discover who you truly are, you're saying, well, wait a minute. Did I really sign up for this? Am I really who I think I am? Am I just fooling myself? Or is it delusion or what? And then all of a sudden you've got all these outside ETs, etc., that are informing you about all this different information, and you feel, you know, like, I guess the best way to put it would be like in 100 places all at the same time, and you're not confused that you're there, rather you're more confused because you don't know which telephone wire to hit next as to what dialogue you want to play on next. So it's like you're this universal spokesperson for all these different races on all these different levels from all these different dimensions, and that's incredible. I have never met anyone like yourself, Susan, and I am deeply pleasured by our acquaintance. Okay, and I look forward possibly to getting to know you better in the future, if that would be of like mind to you. But this is just absolutely fascinating, and I think the timing is crucial. Because as they say, nothing happens without a reason, and everything happens at the right time. So this must be the right time for you to share all this. And, yeah, I would think it's going to bring together a tremendous amount of people of like-mindedness that are going to create their own network, and they're going to be using you as a pivotal point because you've already validated yourself, but you've also validated who knows how many thousands of others. It's just incredible. Take it away.
That's right, Susan. So, Susan, this is a good platform. You're doing a wonderful job. I'm so glad you allowed Janet Lessin of Hawaii and Dr. Richard Knight of Georgia to join us, and I'm in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Now, Janet's given her Gmail on here. And Susan, you don't really want any direct messages at this time while you're building your story and your personality and writing your book. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you'll decide what pictures you want to put into your copyright in your book. Richard's writing a book at the same time, so this is something we can enjoy together, everyone. And
TJ, I want to keep
started.
I want to keep the focus on. Yeah, I want to keep the focus on Susan.
All right. So, Susan, it's your platform. We're just the invited guest. So where would you like to go from there?
I'm going to finish on the Aquaruins because they're quite unique. I have to say I'm very pleased, and I got a special affection for them. They're very unique. I don't know why everybody's afraid of them. I don't understand.
Might just
anyway,
be fear.
I don't get it. Okay, for example, okay, there was a time I was at the Waltz Mill facility training in Pennsylvania, and we were training for the eddy current crew. That was before we went out to that nuclear plant outage in the Midwest. Okay, so I was asleep one night. Of course, I had this scene. I'm always having scenes where it was the courtyard and the back of the Waltz Mill facility, and there was all these, like, I don't know if they're air conditioning units or whatever, and they were caged in and the chain link fence, like, around them. And there was, like, just a straight lawn area, a grass area between, like, the back of the facility and some woods that, and anyway, apparently, and I didn't know this, and I might get it if I say this, there was a series, and I thought, what the hell is going on? Why am I seeing this? Is there really a war going on up there? Wait a minute. Fighting? I never heard of this. Where's this coming from? I see these ships up there shooting lasers at each other, and then 2 or 3 scout crews were on the ground running around, and they were trying to get away from the ships that were shooting lasers at them. And then I show up with Naya, Yissaron, Odavar, Argdalon, and Zyderon or whoever, and we're fighting, and we're running around. I go, well, what's going on here? And then the Nyendans no longer work with us. They broke away. That's another thing, because their planet went belly up, and they got involved with the Tall Whites. So we had to ban our relationship with them, but that's another story. But Naya was there, Morja was there, and we were all there walking around. And I told the other crews to take position and try to aim at the belly of the ship or something like that. And when they couldn't do it, I said, okay, walk around the corner. And we set up what they call a portable portal, where they just literally walk off the planet back up into their own ships. Literally, we can do that. Well, anyway, beam down underneath, and there's basements underneath the Waltz Mill facility. And they're not basements that you use for, like, you know, the residual heat remover pumps or the steam generators or anything like that for the nuclear plant. These were separate basements that were used by the military to interrogate and brainwash different witnesses or different people for intelligence training or torture or whatever as far as I'm concerned, they were torture chambers. Me and Naya and Yissaron and Argdalon beamed down in there, and there was 2 or 3 alien abductees that were there, and they were shot up with sodium pentothal, and they were going to be interrogated by, I don't know who these people were, some kind of intelligence agents or something. And there were some 2 or 3 negative ET Tall Whites there with them, and 2 negative reptilian types. And I said, the hell with this? And I tagged every one of them with a resonating energy signature, and I spoke to the ship, and they beamed them straight out of the chair up into our ships. And then the ones that were there started fighting us, and I started fighting them. I killed 2 or 3 of them with the laser pointer. I'm not going to tell you where the laser comes from, but then I yelled into my device, yes, sir. What? Hello? Hello? Am I on? Hello?
Who are you trying to talk to, Susan?
I was trying to talk to TJ and Janet. They're not there?
I presume they are.
Fucking, we're here. Okay, we were muted. Keep talking. It's okay. Keep going, Susan.
Okay, so then the ship pulses me as hard as it can, and that pulse drops the other people and kills them instantly, and it fried the computer system. And then after that, we all beamed out. And then I woke up, and I thought, what the hell was that? And I said, "Did tell me that there's underground basements at the Waltz Mill facility?" And I know exactly where they're at too. And I thought, uh-oh. I hope nobody catches wind of this one. And I go into work the next day, and I pretend to be normal, like nothing happened. Now that was that was like extreme.
It's odd that you
And
can tell when we're muted. So it just makes it clearer, lawyers are for you, Susan. But I'm amazed you can tell the difference if we're muted.
Yeah, I didn't think I was on the air anymore.
Oh, no,
You're
you were
doing
on
great.
the air. Yep.
So then
anyway,
another scene.
Keep going. Keep going, yes.
So then this is the most revealing part about the Urquequians. I couldn't believe this. I had another scene, and this was like back in the late 90s. No, or was it 2003? I'm not sure. But I was up in their ship along with my people, Yisron, Argalon, Odavar, all of them, and Darlon and Morlon and Arlon, who are the three leaders of the Urquequians that are also very, intimate with me. They showed me a flat screen on the wall in front of the control panel that I was standing at. And then on the control panel is the quadruple coupled spherical grid plate like I told you about. And then there was a smaller imaging screen in front of it, flat. It's like a thin piece of film stretched between two rods. And what I was doing was I was actually manipulating an energy field pattern on the sphere in front of me, and with the four poles, I can project that image onto the little screen. And once I get it right, I project it onto the big flat screen in front of me on the wall. And what happens is it was a planet that we had just created. And I got a picture of that one. And that planet was 2 or 3 months later, NASA just announced that they just discovered a new Earth-type planet twice as big as the Earth, and it's called 22 Kepler b. And I thought, what? That planet existed right after I had that scene or that dream. I couldn't believe it. So that must have been the one we did. Well, apparently, what we do is after we create the planet, it goes through different stages of activation. And the last phase that we do is called the igneous rock activation phase, where the water that's in the center of the planet percolates to the surface. And then after that, I had several subsequent dreams, again with the Urquequians and the Arcarons, the Urquequians, the Obercon, Argonon, where we would go back and forth, and we did the lichen synthesis, and then we did the atmospheric stabilization, and then after that we have to do the terraforming phase, and that's where Bigfoot comes in, because they can lift those huge trees and stuff. And after we put in the lichen phase, where we do the lichens and the funguses and all that stuff on the planet to condition the surface soil and everything, we do the atmospheric activation, where we stabilize the gases in the atmosphere and get to the right ratios of different gases. And then we also put living organisms in the atmosphere. The biosphere is what it's referred to. That's what we use the term. The humans probably use it differently. Biosphere means the atmosphere around the planet. And every atmosphere has living organisms in it. And those living organisms, the ratio of those living organisms and the concentration of each type of organism per cubic deciliter of air, it will determine the overall health of that planet, of that whole ecosystem on that planet. And then the last phase, after we activate that, We did the terraforming where we put in the different trees and the forests, and that's where the Bigfoots come in because they're a terraforming race. They go and they put in the huge trees, evergreen trees, already full grown, already active, and they're able to lock it in and make it live where the trees don't die after they're planted. And then after that is then the next phase is the colonization of that planet. Now, a lot of times we will find another person or another race that has lost their planet, and we will capture their souls and anchor them on different anchoring mechanisms in the ships. And then what we do is we take the DNA from, and that's where the seeding races that work with us, the ones who down here who have been taking the ovum and the sperm from human abductees. Well, a lot of them they're called seeding races because what they will do is they will produce clones, and the clones of the various different races that have lost their planets and everything, and they will put them in the cylinders, and they will be fully grown clones. And then once we find a suitable planet and it has a planetary matrix that matches their biomatrix and soul matrix, we will animate those bodies with the souls. And then we will relocate those colonies to those other planets and lock them into that planetary rhythm, planetary biosphere, planetary matrix. And then we will see the stability and see how they adapt. And we will supervise them for like the period of adaptation. Each period of adaptation is dependent upon the race that we're working on. And once that's already been established and stabilized, we will frequently monitor them from a distance, but we will not interfere with them unless we need to help them or something. And the prime directive is another issue I got to address. But anyway, basically, we do a lot of that type of work where we will, people that have, races that have lost their planets will be relocated to a planet that's very similar to their own, or a lot of times we can restore their original planet to its pristine condition. So we do that type of work. And anyway, the Urquequians were letting me see this, that I had actually activated the planet using the igneous rock activation phase. Beautiful turquoise, iridescent blue colors and everything. I was really impressed with the colors. I can't reproduce them down here. There's no way. And then another time, apparently somebody else that I had met through a UFO meetup group here locally, she was a powerhouse woman, wrote several books on aviation and everything, worked with her husband and stuff. She had told me, she called me out of the blue one day, which is unusual. People don't usually call me, and they usually run away from me. But this one called me back and told me that she had this weird dream. And I said, probably it's not a dream, but continue. And then she told me how she was in this like big courtyard and back of a college, and they had all these air conditioning units, and she saw these black rectangular ships, and there was all these other people, and they were afraid. They didn't want to go up, and they were running and scattering, but a lot of them were taken up, and then she ran. She didn't want to be taken up, and she was scared. Next thing you know, she's up in the ship, and she's looking through a teller's type window to these other people that are on the other side of the teller window from her. And the beings were standing behind them, and she looked at this one person, and she asked this one person, "Well, where are you from?" And she says, "I'm from Australia." And then she said, "Well, what is your name?" She goes, "Kelly Ramsey or Ramsey Kelly or something like that." I think it was Kelly Ramsey. She was some kind of a psychologist, and I think she was doing research in alternate states of being or ulterior states of being or something like that. And anyway, then she said that she looked it up and there really was such a person. And when I tried to look her up, I couldn't find her. It's like they immediately deleted that information off the internet as soon as me and her were talking about it. And then she said a man was sitting in front of her, and they were taking that same Q-tip device and rotating it back and forth in his ear, but instead of him just like enjoying it and sitting there and passive, no, he was screaming and yelling and writhing in pain, and he was scared, and tears were coming down his eyes and crying, and the aliens were doing this to him, and they didn't know why he didn't know why he was being tortured by them, and then she was afraid. And I tried to explain to her what that device was and that they had done the same thing to me. And then the guy left, and then one of the aliens was there, and then she asked the alien, "Where are you from, and what are you doing here?" And they said they're from Hydra, and they work with a colony of 60 million humans. And I thought, aha, so that's where they're from. And I told her, oh, thank you for telling me. I wondered where they were really from. I'm glad you told me this. And I told her that they're called the Aquaruins, and they do this and that. She never spoke to me again. I mean, it's like, for some reason, I don't know why. But why is everybody afraid of them? I think they're just very personable and open. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. So let's go round robin here. Theresa, do you have any questions, comments, feedback? Oh, I wanted to say something before I forget. You were talking about the relocation program for different species that may have reasons to vacate their original planet. Maybe they're running from something. Maybe their planet's no longer livable. But I have been working that project. I have I wake up with very strong memories of just having been working on the project. I go and sometimes, like the one planet, we found a bunch of ruins, and they were just absolutely gorgeous. And so, but they were bigger than the Earth humanoid size. So we said, well, let's go in there. You know, these things are much bigger. We can break the rooms down into smaller rooms, and and house whole families, like a big apartment complex. And we could even insert additional floors. And so one of their buildings, which I don't know how many they may have housed, but they were 20 to 30 feet tall. They could have housed X, and one of their buildings we could fit thousands in there as opposed to hundreds of them. So, so I saw them. I made that suggestion telepathically. I'm not sure who I was talking to, and then they brought me back about a week later in real time here, and it was bustling with people, and most of them seemed to be, they were all Earthlings. They said these are Earthlings. There were a lot of brown people. There seemed to be a huge Asian influence. They were kind of wearing that kind of garb, and they had a lot of music playing and dancing, and they were celebrating, and they brought a lot of, crafts people that could build and remodel, and then everything that we need to support people that could cook. And anyway, so they were celebrating because they had transplanted, I don't know, tens of thousands of people there. Their conditions where they were living before were not optimal, and so they were celebrating. So I went back, and then another time they were dancing in the middle of the street, and I'm following this. They came over, and they were excited to see me, and they swept me up into the celebration. And then I felt like really rejuvenated, like I could dance for hours and not be tired at all. And so I'm dancing and following this parade, and next thing I know, there's a little cow, a rope to a cow, a little calf in my hands, and they go, everybody has their cow here. I go, okay, so there's a gift of a calf. And so anyway, it was very beautiful, and I came back, and I was just smiling ear to ear. And so I'm really happy to be a part of these relocation programs, so I'm aware of them as well. So with that, I'd like to pass the talking stick to Theresa or Richard, whoever wants to go next, to give Susan feedback or maybe additional questions or comments. Who wants to go next, Theresa or Richard? Richard, do you want to go?
Sure.
Okay.
Susan, what exactly do these Aquaruins look like? Are they humanoid like us, or are they distinguishable as other kind of beings, or exactly what?
They're taller on average, about 5'8" to 6 foot tall. They have, of course, they got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. And the head is not as big as the grays, not exaggerated. They're like a sky bluish color. They're really odd. Their eyes are really cool looking. They're like a really deep royal blue. They're solid, deep royal blue eyes, and they're like a funny teardrop shape where the tip of the teardrop curves down, and the wider part of the teardrop is toward the corner of their nose. And they have a regular nose, and they got a regular mouth, and they got the long fingers with the knotty protuberances on their all their knuckles on their fingers, and their sternum itself, they got that circular area. Instead of the sternum being flat like ours, they have like a circular indentation on their sternum, like above where their breast would be, or in between their breast, and there's similar musculature like us. And they have, I don't know if they have a retracting penis or not, but they do have big balls.
Okay. That was a bit of an unexpected information by all means.
We're going to do a show. We had a brief conversation off the show. We're going to do alien sexuality, but not this show. But that's a preview of what's coming, so to speak. Ha, ha, ha. So go ahead,
sure.
Richard. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to explain. We're going to do a show on alien sexuality. Go ahead.
There's only one other vital question that just seems to be steaming in my mind, and that is, Susan, do you have the ability to recognize other races or other beings of other races that are in human form when you come in contact with them here amongst what appear to be normal Earthlings?
If I do, I don't know it, because probably I haven't ran across anybody yet. That's how severe this isolation is between all of us.
Okay. Because I know you had mentioned previously, the lizard, when you were down in the basement, there were lizard people there, and there were some other beings there, and there were some tall white ones and so forth. But I'm presuming, or I guess it should be said, that actually you're physically encountering them while you yourself, I guess, are in an etheric form? Or are you actually physically present?
I'm physically present. Now, sometimes I'm in my present form, or sometimes I'll shift into my alternate form, which looks more like Yisseron. You might have seen the picture of Yisseron, what he looks like.
Not offhand, but I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised either, because I have kept up with some of the literature.
And I have shifted a few times, and my niece has seen me actually shift.
Oh, wow.
But I look more like Yisseron when I shift.
Mm-hmm.
But now, our Magdalon from the Ruvawan, also in Cygnus, near Cygnus X1, he has worked with me and helping me shift into alternate forms. And he can make my eyebrows thicker, thinner. He can make me look bald. He can make my hair look stringy. He can make spikes come out of my head. He can make my face distorted. And he's actually teaching me how to do that on my own. And this is our Magdalon.
So a form of shape-shifting, you could say, in a manner of speaking, although the shape-shifting may or may not be actually physical, but rather a projection energetically as to how you're perceived outwardly by others.
Well, he would make me look at myself in the mirror and do the shifting.
Oh, okay. So in other words, it's like presenting to you different perceptions of what you can become by utilizing mental will, I guess.
Our Magdalon, he's got concentric rings around his eyes and concentric rings within his eyes, and I myself have some rings, has some lines in my eyes too, in the corner. Actual. And he has worked with me in my past life, and he was the Starfleet commander in my past life. That's what I was told, and I go, oh my God, what does that mean, war? And sure enough, later on, I was told by several different people who've done readings on me and stuff that I'm definitely a warrior. And then, ironically enough, I have a symbol. What is that beeping noise?
I don't know. It's not here.
I'll put myself on mute.
No, I got sidetracked. What was I saying?
It's okay. You were talking about rings around the eyes, and then you were talking about in past lives. And then you had also readings of your being previous warriors, and you're a warrior currently.
Right. What I was told by the they're the elders from the Urfactinum universe. That's where I got the name from. They told me that's what it was. They 2015, I had a scene where they took me up into the megaship, and I was in the cargo area playing with these other beings. They're like 3.5 foot to 4 foot tall, and we were playing our dimensional hide and seek tag games like we usually do. And then 3 elders showed up, and they were like 6.5 to 7 foot tall. And they said, "Come here a minute, Suzerain." So I go to them, and I stood in front of them, and they said, "You are from the symbol on your right ankle means you're from. That means Urfactinum. It is a universe that we are from, and we are the home world of our people. And you're from Urfactinum universe, and it's also the name of a planet that you reside in, an Alienologists universe, before you came over to Taurus." And they told me you are Urfactinum, and that's even alien, even to the Alienologists universe, that we are so alien and removed that we have to be isolated because we are master energy creator beings, and we do energy processes that are totally foreign or alien to even Alienologists universe. Especially, it's going to be foreign to this universe. And they said we come from a very high place where we do universal dimensional work and very adjoining universes to our universe, and that's why you're here now. And they said that's what the symbol means. And they said, I can't go into it now because there's too much confusion and everything going on, too much distraction right now. We will tell the rest of it will come to you. We will tell you later. And I think he was referring to the fact that I was playing with the Cremungians and we were doing our dimensional work and everything, or dimensional play. So he left. I got the impression when he said confusion, he was referring to the ones that I was playing with, the beings. Then back like 2 or 3 years, was it 2019 or something, I was going on YouTube and I looked up, and it was a spiritual symbol website that was advertising on YouTube, and I went on it, just on a whim. And they said, which of the 4 symbols do you identify with? And the closest one that identified the one on my ankle, I selected, and the definition is warrior. And I go, oh, that's the 3rd or 4th one that's told me I'm a warrior. Great. So then I'm remembering when Yisseron telepathically told me that I will be working with the warrior commander, the commanders of these warrior alien races for now on out, because we got a lot of work to do. Like, we're going to be fighting. There's going to be an ongoing battle, a war up there. And I go, wait a minute, because I knew right away what that means, intimately. And then I was told in 2008, that was another time I was told I was a warrior. In 2008, I was asleep in my bed, and the helicopter flew over, and it actually shot a laser at me when I was asleep through the window. And Yisseron made me invisible and hid me underneath, like behind the bed. And then 2 or 3 of our ships went after the helicopter, and I don't know what they did to it, but it never came back again. And later on that day when I woke up, I got the real strong impression that for now on, we're not going to let you remember much of anything when you go up anymore, because from now on, we're in a war and we're fighting a serious war. And for your own security and safety, you're not going to remember much from here on out unless it's not related or something. And that year, 2008, I was trying to reinvent myself to make myself more marketable. I took training as a junior health physics tech. I took the Northeast Utilities test and passed it. I was an apprentice boilermaker, and I had to take the apprentice training in Jacksonville, Florida. I did a lot of and I went to the nuclear plant as an apprentice health physics tech, and I also went to as a valve tech up there in Michigan at a nuclear plant up there. I did a lot and find out to no avail. I didn't get hired in any of those places. Oh, I worked as a valve tech at the one plant in Michigan, but that was it. And when I was a junior health physics tech, and the one in North Carolina, I had to go home early because my eyes were really bothering me. They were giving me a very hard time. They were blurry and everything all the time. And I had to go home. And then the apprentice boilermaker tech, I decided not to become a boilermaker because they're very violent. They're very vicious. They beat up on people. If somebody falls from their lanyard on the harness and they're hanging there, they'll sexually accost them and stuff. So I said, I'm not dealing with this because it'll be my luck. I'll get killed or I'll get in trouble. So I didn't go back to them because there was like 2 or 3 boilermakers telling about how they beat the shit out of this one woman, that she thought she was great, that she can do a man's job, and we showed her who the real man is. By when she was hanging there on the harness, they attacked her, and I said, forget that. And I decided not to go there because I almost got in a fight with the job steward at another nuclear plant, and he said, "This is wuss. This is baby stuff. Until you do the real work in the phosphate mines and stuff, you're not a real boilermaker." And he was just a very bully, abrasive, antagonistic. And he was ahead of the boilermaker crew at the one nuclear plant. And he was really vicious. So I never went back. So I ended up not doing much of anything that year, even though I tried to reinvent myself and I got all the certifications. And then back in 2010, I was at the apprenticeship program for a utility down there at the local college. I made straight A's, the dean's list and everything like that. But during the internship phase of it, I was going north on US 1 looking for a business address, and it was a cloudy, hazy day out, drizzly, and it was a solid gray cloud cover, and a laser came out at a 45-degree angle out of the clouds, and it hit my car between the trunk and the gas cap, and after that I had transmission problems for the rest of the time. And then back in 2013, I was in the right-hand turn-only lane in the same area, and I went from going 10 miles an hour within 3 seconds to going to like 45 miles an hour inside of the back of another car, and the other car wasn't even there before that happened. So I think they hit me with a laser or something, blacked me out. Now, I was talking to some other person, and I don't know, I don't think it was TJ, I'm not sure who it was, but they said the same thing happened to them 3 different times when they were going an off-ramp off at the an expressway, and 3 different times they were blacked out by something that hit them from the sky, and they would wake up in almost an accident, but they would swerve off the road into the embankment so that they wouldn't get into an accident. So I was attacked several times. They attempted my life 7 times, and I had to come back down here to my childhood home, and they don't want me to leave. I get the impression they don't want me to leave my childhood home because I'm safer here. So this has been an ongoing fight, and I wake up with injuries. Not last summer, but the summer before that, both of my knees were hurting so bad I could hardly walk. And I went to the UFO meetup group that time, and the one woman there who's from Argentina recognized me as being a pure alien. And I go, how do you know? And she goes, I can just tell. I just know. I got the impression she had an experience, and she didn't remember the experience, but somehow it made her aware of other aliens around her or something. And it's just been one ongoing thing after another. Wake up with, I've got a bum thumb on my left hand, and I don't know how I got it, and my thumbs they're not straight, they bend outward. And it's becoming progressively increased with age, the curvature. Okay.
Do you feel like there's any preeminent calling, or there's any preeminent mission that you're on? Or, in other words, amongst all of this various experiences and all of these up and down interdimensional travels and so on and so forth, do you feel that there's any kind of overall reason that you're here on Earth now?
We were commissioned to come in from the they call it the Council of One, which are the other lesser known alien races that form their own council, and they oversee the universal dimensional permutations and stability and cosmic systems of this universe. They oversee the actual creation itself. And we were also called in by Orion Council, the specific one that does planetary creation, that created this planet and some of the humans on this planet. The original humans that were put on this planet before they were messed with by the Anunnaki and the Tallites and the negative reptilians and negative ETs. Before they were messed with by them, there was original 3 human colonies that were put here when the Earth was first created by this one local Orion Council. And I think they're Orion's belt, and I think they're mainly, I think their council seat is in Alnilam. There's Mentaka, Alnilam, and Alnitek. And Alnilam is where I think the council is seated, the Orion Council. And then we were called in from Aliatron. We were called in from Arfactanum universe. And originally, before we were called in, our state of existence was we're quasi-light beings, meaning we're solid physical beings, but would give off a goldish aura of light around us that you can actually visibly see. And we interface a lot with I was on the main council, the highest council. I want to say the Council of 7, the Council of 3, and we were around the accretion ring that goes around the sphere, and we can image any kind of incoming, any kind of instability region that surrounds our local the Arfactanum universe, and we have like a toroidal, like a donut ring that goes around the universe, and we have what they call these tensor fields that feeds in and out of each adjoining universe through the donut and to the central sphere that we're around all the time. And we will image it like 3 times a day. We will circle, we will convene, and we will put our hands on the ring, and we will observe what imagery is coming up. And based on what universe has any instability, whether it's in the system itself or there's a local skirmish in one of the planetary systems or something, we will go in, we will write a tensor into that universe, and we will go in and we will stabilize the system. If it's this dimensional creation work, that's easy. But if there's a war or something, it takes longer because we have to analyze the enemy, figure out what its properties and capabilities and its intent is, and then eliminate it. And then we're not done there. We have to teach the local planet how to fend for themselves. That we have to let their progenitors come in and teach them about their identity. We have to teach self-preservation and defense and defense systems and stuff. And then we can supervise them while then we leave. And then we go to other tensors. But we were called into this universe by 2 councils. One of them wanted us to end the Lyran Wars, which we did. We were involved in the Zeta Reticuli Wars, and we ended that. And that's where Zeta Reticuli, Jedua, and were liberated. And we ended those wars, and now we're fighting the war here because this is a very hot piece of real estate, because this area is super critical. And that's why we were called in. We're a very small elite force. We're like SEAL Team 6. A lot of other races are here. They're in larger numbers. We're very small, but we're extremely powerful and our energy-wielding abilities. When they say Star Wars, the Force be with you, we're the Force. And we were called in to eliminate the evil out of total, complete existence, reverting it back to a pure form of energy. We had to sequester them all into this sector. We've already been doing the pulse, and now it's just a matter of time before its culmination. I don't know when that's going to occur, but it's supposed to be real shortly. But we were basically called in to end all the conflict and wars, and we stabilized this universe into its next phase of development, or its next stage of development, and we stabilized it already. And we're stabilizing the planetary systems, or we're almost done with that, where there's a lot of voids, and then there's a lot of planets that are in the unstable stage of evolvement, where the stars are mostly red dwarfs and stuff. We're stabilizing all of that. I think we've done most of it. And now we're here on the Earth. We locked the Earth into the fifth dimension already, stabilized it, locked it in. We opened up the Stargate system around Orion, and we also guard the Stargate, the Alpha Draconis Stargate or portal that was opened up between Draco and Cygnus. And then we're protecting the Stargate here right now, but it isn't just like watching it like a vanguard. No, we're actually fortifying the gates and everything. And now it's a fierce war. It's gonna get hot before it cools down, and I mean surface hot. And I don't mean nuclear either.
So you're creator guardians, in a manner of speaking. In other words, you have the ability to create, but you also guard and interact to kind of bring out a sense of balance and justice, I guess, to other races on other planets and other galaxies, universes, etc. That's fantastic. That's just phenomenal. Timelines. I mean, I realize that in other dimensions, time really doesn't exist. That time as a perspective is really circular rather than linear, as it's observed here. So naturally, there are a tremendous amount of light workers here on the Earth that are perceiving that there is a split between the third dimensional timeline and the fifth dimensional timeline. And if you could elaborate on that, that would be most enlightening.
From what I've been shown by the Chobacon, the Urquequians, and now he's been around for a long time. This is another one. He's a tall gray, but he's been with me since my childhood. But he would see me when I'm asleep at night. He would see me between the ages of 8 years old till about like 18, and then he left. And he reappeared about 2 or 3 years ago and let me know that he was interested in me, intimately. Because most beings, when we do alliances, we do it a bonding process, and that's part of the bonding process. And we have to do that because we all have to be in the same wavelength when we're doing missions and stuff, so that there's no dissension or no chance of infiltration or sabotage or anything from within. Okay, so anyway, just today, he finally, I knew he was around here physically for 3 days. I was like really erogenous. I couldn't understand why. And I knew he was in the area and he was interested in me that way. Well, apparently it's all gone now, so he must have, did what we had to do. But he went and showed me, and this is really weird. There was a long, drawn-out scene. He showed me 3 different possible, what you call timelines. I call them probable futures. That's what the Chobacon call them, probable futures. Imagine a ball with spikes going out of the ball. Well, that ball is you, and those spikes are called probable futures, what you call timelines. Whatever you do within that ball at that moment will determine which spike you're going to follow, what probable future or what you call timeline you're going to follow. But it's not that simple. That's what the Chobacon taught me. Okay. Zebulon, that's the name. That's the name that was given to me. actually through an electronic device. Sometimes they can communicate with you through electronic devices, and they'll actually make a word appear, and then I have to memorize it, and I do. Zebulon is one of them. Zendra is another. Icke is another one. Zebulon showed me today my present timeline, this present realm I'm in right now, this present three-dimensional reality, right? This present dimension. And I was walking down the hallway, and next thing I know, I'm in another, what they call a nullified, meaning it won't happen, a nullified dimension. Same three-dimensional orientation, but nullified residual energy pattern is what it specifically is. I'm walking through there, and the same bedroom, the same house, the same people, everything, only the furniture was different. The furniture was more of a dark oak, shiny, polished furniture. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I saw that I had no gray in my hair at all, and I did not dye my hair once at that stage. And my hair was still straight and smooth because I got straight hair, but it was shoulder length. And and that nullified timeline, I never went to school. I never took physics. I never took electronics, or never took mechanical maintenance, and I never got certifications in OSHA or HAZWOPER, and I never in that timeline. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw that I was the same person as I am now, but I had no gray in my hair, and my brother had more black in his hair than he does now, and it was short. And my dad had more hair, and everything was smoother and more quieter, but I was not fully in contact with my people or aware of my people like I am in this timeline. But that was a nullified one, and he explained to me, and the nullified timelines that will never occur because they're not activated, or what they call the probable future has not been locked in or activated. They act as mediums, like threshold regions. Mute. They act as threshold regions where you can transmit information, transmit people, transmit energies and stuff, and they use it as mainly a communication medium. And the other parallel timeline, which is where I interact with them all the time, which is actually an overlapping dimension. Timeline is a misnomer; it's misleading. And that other overlapping dimension, or superimposition, supercomposed dimension, and this one, when I'm in that alternate vibrational resonance, and I'm in that dimension walking around, I can see myself, and I'm about the way I am right now, and I can walk in the same area and stuff, but effectively speaking, that's just used as what they call a travel, like gateways, like roadways, like highways or stuff, where I can walk around in that time, in that overlapping dimension, and then wherever I want to materialize to do what I have to do, I can use that to negotiate the roadways or walkways or pathways or rooms or hallways or whatever. And then when I materialize, I can either go from there to either anywhere in the ship or anywhere in the universe or anywhere back here, anywhere in enemy territory, rematerialize and do what I have to do and go back. So you see, it's convoluted, it's very multidimensional and everything, and yet I understand it perfectly.
Susan, you've got a person here from Chicago. Do you want to see if they want to ask a question? Because we've only got 4 minutes till your show goes.
Let them ask you first.
Ask me first. Okay, 708. You're live on the air with TJ, Susan, Richard, and Janet. Did you want to ask Susan a question or the panel? Just listening? I can't hear anything. Okay. Well, do any of y'all hear anything?
Time to wrap it up. No, time to wrap it up. We have like 5 minutes.
Let's all.
So.
Susan, do you want to do this again or no? You don't know yet, or you want us just to leave it hanging, cliffhanger till next week, or
How do you feel about this?
Next week.
Yeah. Would you like to return or do some other shows, or do you have any plans? Just give us an idea.
I think this time next week is good, and we can do this every week.
You'd like to do this every week. Now, even if you don't have, are you going to bring other guests on? That's something you can think about and let us know later. But for right now, it sounds like you've been doing a really good job. You've been giving out a lot of information. We appreciate it, and I'm sure if Janet would like to carry it, that's fine. And we'll have you back next week. And Janet and I will be here, and Richard Knight's going to be coming on tomorrow night, folks. And Suzanne, they can get in touch with you through Aquaruin Radio or TJ Morris ET Radio, either one. And we'll get you a page up. And Janet already has a lot of information on Aquaruin Radio, folks. She does a good job as a publicist and a radio host in her brand, Aquaruin Radio. And we appreciate it, Susan. And if we have anybody wanting to talk to you, we'll do our best to cover it and make sure they can contact you, okay? Janet, last words.
Oh, I'm really thankful that we got to do this show today. Yesterday, Blog Talk wasn't working, so today we got a show up. Thank you, and we will put it up on our network far and wide. The show main page I'll put this on is aquarianradio.com. I'm not sure which website TJ will put it on. We will upload to our 20, 30, 40 platforms and spread this far and wide. And please do tell your friends. Please like us on our YouTubes and ring the bell so you get notified for future episodes. And I think that's it for me. Richard, what do you want to say to our audience as you part?
Well, we appreciate you all for tuning in or listening in or whatever. And Susan obviously is a most excellent provocateur of live experiences in all kinds of different dimensions. And I personally am very, very grateful that I happen to have the pleasure of coming in and actually speaking with you, Susan, and hopefully that we can contact again in some future point. Anyway, I've seriously enjoyed my interaction with all of you tonight, and many blessings.
Richard, tomorrow night it is made. So same time tomorrow night. It's Ancients, Alien ET Hybrid, Humans, Decrypt Fusion, Merging Metaphysics. So I guess the Ancient Alien ET Hybrid Humans will decrypt.
Susan, you better have an ear in on this one by the sounds of it. My goodness.
I must have made it when I was off playing.
You must shorten it, TJ. I think it's too long for people. and Richard Knight.
I'll have to come in as my alien self on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So
well,
Richard Knight is going to be
on the platform.
I just want to say one thing. We're going to run out of time. Richard Knight is coming on also on the 10th on Sacred Matrix on the Aquarian Radio Network. Go to aquarianradio.com. It's going to be on Zoom this time. And you can click and register. We can fit 100 people in a room, so come on in and watch it live. And so we're going to probably have some visuals now that we're doing the Zoom system. So, okay, and I'm done. I'm going to log off. Thank you very much. And maybe you have some exit music here, TJ, because as soon as you're done, I'm going to download and upload it.
All right, JKLessin from the podium, folks.
Okay, aloha, everybody. I got to run.
All right, love and light.
Blessings.
All right,
bye-bye.
Susan, we look forward to having you come back then if you'd like to, if you like your platform, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. And tomorrow night we're going to begin with whatever we can do with Richard that's just, I guess, decrypting metaphysics, sounds like, so. Enjoy having everybody. And all you people that tuned in, we can't do it without you. Thank you so much for 8 years of people that have been so good at following us and helping us. And also, I'm putting a lot of YouTubes out there, folks, under TJ Morris and Theresa J. Morris and American Communication Online and my UFO.Association. And I've just renewed for Susan and Richard, believe it or not, because they're new with this company on this network, TJ Morris ET Radio, so please write that down. And I'm making this Friday platform for Susan and Saturday platform for Richard. They're both new personalities in radio right here
on TJ Morris ET Radio, and we look forward to whatever tomorrow night's going to hold. Thank you, Susan. You did an excellent job, and I hope I didn't interfere with your train of thought too much. Or I think we did pretty good. I tried to keep shut.
Well, there's a lot more where that came from, a lot more.
Well, it sounds like it. I'm looking forward to learning about it. All right, folks. I guess I am trying to find my button here to get us offline here. So thank you, Richard, and thank you. Why am I not in my studio? Oh, love it. Okay, folks, I'm a little rusty, you can tell.
The ETs are taking control.
All right. So, yes, I'm back in control on the board. All right, this ship is landed, but it's fixing to take off again. So, love and light, everybody. I'll throw some music out of here, and we can get better music. Everybody send it. Get it off of YouTube, Suzanne and Richard, and just send me your little clips, and I'll be more than happy to play it. All right. See y'all tomorrow night.